Hey guys, welcome back to the Daily Chop. Today I have my beautiful wife, Natalie, with me. We are going to be talking about communication.
Hi. Yes.
Which is a huge thing in America and just with couples, whether you're married long or short or just in a relationship, right?
Yeah.
So we had a question come in from one of the viewers and it was like, what do you do? How do you look at communication where you've been married so long and you know each other's habits that you just sometimes assume you know the answer? Yeah. And like, is that a problem or is just that, okay, you've learned how to live life that way? What do you think?
It's a house divided, and I ain't talking about the rivalry. The numbers growing, people embracing reform theology. It's not a trend, just a product of consequence. Supposed to shepherd people, lead them to scripture, common sense. Look, this pure buffoonery inside the church was made to be a haven for truth. Some sit down where liars lurk. No improvement in times are worse. I'm pointing to the sky, observe. According to Christ, it's a sign of birth. Look, how you believe in God and not what's written. Like certain chapters don't align with your vision.
I think it can be two things.
Okay.
I think it can be a problem or it can turn into like complacency. Where then that could turn into like not the greatest relationship or the best relationship that you could have.
Yeah. Because
you're not really deeming it as a problem because you're like, this is just kind of how it's always been. And then there's the, well, you know, this is a problem because I'm always assuming something that I think you're thinking based upon what you constantly do or your actions that follow after, you know, my thoughts of what you're going to do. So, I mean, I think it can be two things like that, you know?
Yeah.
What do you think?
You know, it's hard because it's easy to get complacent and feel that way. Like, okay, well, it's just this one time.
Yeah.
Right. And then like, it's nowadays we're so busy in life that it's easy to do that like all the time. And then be like, well, you know, I'll just call them later and then forget. But I think, you know, honestly, if we're being honest, I think it's happened to us before.
Yeah.
You know, where it's well, it's okay. Like I know they'll be okay.
Yeah.
And then we make that decision and then we come to find out like, well,
it wasn't okay.
It wasn't okay. I kind of wish you would have talked to me about that first.
Yeah.
You know, and then it can lead down different ways. But like, how did it make you feel when that happened?
When I felt like you weren't communicating with me right, or when I felt like I was assuming something that you thought or did? Like, what do you mean?
All right. Well, let's start it off like this. Here's an instance that I can give you for us that we've had, right? When I first started this, it was like really hard to balance everything out. Like, trying to be that fulcrum point, right? Like you can't move it too fast because it'll unbalance everything and then everything can fall to one side.
Yeah.
So there was a point where it was like, okay, I'm communicating with you, but like, I don't feel like you're hearing me, but you're not listening to me. Like there, you know, cause I would be busy working and I'm still hearing you. And I actually like hear you but there's a difference between listening and hearing.
Yeah.
Right. Like, well, how did that make you feel? Because it could be like to the same thing because it's like, okay, well, I assumed you heard me, you know, and then you went and did it. And I'm like, well, wait, I didn't even know you said that. And you're like, well, you were distracted.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So like, that could be like how during that time, how did it make you feel?
Probably just not cared for, or like you didn't care fully about what I cared about, because if I said it to you and you said you heard it, but then you didn't like change or do what it was that I was asking of you, or that I brought to your attention because I needed you to like adjust, then I would get offended.
Yeah.
And in fact, I would get offended to the point where then I would start to get like bitter or just be like, well, if he doesn't care, then I'm not going to care. And you know, that almost always has never worked out to my benefit to play tick for tack with you. Yeah. Like ever. So I think it always made me feel frustrated because I felt like, well, how many times do I have to say it to you for you to get it? But I don't think it was what I was saying to you. It was how I was saying it to you.
Mm.
And then I think it was your ability to be present,
Yeah.
to understand what I was saying.
Yeah.
Because there was plenty of times where we had conversations that I don't think we fully understood what each other was talking about because we were too busy trying to respond to each other in some of those conversations before we kind of realized, okay, this is a problem.
Yeah.
Because now we're like completely not on the same page.
Yeah. I think a lot of the times, like what I've noticed for us is that our perspectives are different.
Yeah, very.
And one of us will say something and like we have to learn like how we perceive things.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that's been a big thing in our communication is like, well, that's not the way she perceives it.
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, well, that's not the way he perceives it.
Right.
And I think as couples, it's easy to skip past that because we get to know each other and like, but as we know each other, like even as we get older, like we're changing.
Yeah.
We're constantly changing.
Yes.
We're humans. And the hardest thing for humans is change.
Yeah.
And then so when you change, like, well, I have to adapt,
Mm-hmm.
you know? And that's like where people like get lost at sometimes.
Yeah.
Because they're like, well, I'm used to like just communicating with her this way.
Yeah.
Or vice versa.
Yeah. I think one of the common things that you can hear in broken relationships or, relationships that didn't work out is, well, they changed.
Yeah.
You know, they're not the same anymore. They're not the same when we were dating to then when we got married, they were different.
Yeah.
And really, I don't think it's necessary. Well, okay. So like you said, yes, it's that you change,
Mm-hmm.
but we all change. We should be changing because we should be evolving for growth.
Right.
But
Right.
also there's like mitigating circumstances and factors that play into why someone changes.
Yeah.
Because I guess from, being a wife and a mom and a woman, you go through, having kids, you go through changes in your body, your weight, your hormones, you go through, motherhood differently than the father does
Mm-hmm.
because of your role as a mom.
Yeah.
So I think like, and then, there comes just maturity and
You say maturity, and it brings me to a question for you.
mm-hmm.
On this, right? Especially in communication. It makes me think about identity.
Yes.
Because how you perceive what someone says in communication could also come back and affect you how you see yourself.
Yes.
And that person's identity, like how they believe about themselves. Like,
yeah.
well, it's easy. It's easy as a man to get frustrated with your spouse, right?
Mm-hmm.
And like, well, she just didn't listen. And then like, does that, as a husband, if we get mad or if we try to speak aggressively or don't take time to reflect and give grace on certain situations, like how much does that make your identity worse when the lies become this feed in your mind as we're talking?
So I guess if you're saying if there's certain things that you may have brought up during like disagreements that I have maybe verbalized to you.
Well, no, I mean, in a sense of like, well, you feel like I'm just never good enough because I always mess up.
Okay.
Like, or man, this is my fault. Or if communication gets wrong, you see what I'm saying? Like how identity can play in someone's communication back and forth. Like
if you're a negative person.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, if you're always negative, if you have a hard time loving yourself, I guess, then you're going to have a hard time receiving love from your partner. And I think also like constructive criticism too, maybe where you need it, because you might feel offended and hurt because there might be some truth to what your partner's saying. But I think it's always in the how or like the approach of
how it's said.
How it's said to you.
Yeah.
So I think that can become a breakdown in communication a lot for people because, I mean, man, if you're already struggling, within yourself, then yeah, your spouse can definitely bring that out of you by the way that they approach you or communicate with you about something specific.
Now, what about trauma?
Trauma plays a huge part into
people's communication.
Yeah. And relationally, like, man, if you're still struggling with, some sort of PTSD from that trauma or, triggers that you haven't managed yet or even learned how to manage, your partner can absolutely be one of probably the biggest triggers for you if they don't know how to communicate with you well or in a way that's not going to be, extremely triggering to some of those things that you're already dealing with.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
and as we're talking, like, because in order to fix a communication crisis, like in a relationship, like we actually have to sit down and like you said, like not listen to respond,
to understand,
but listen to understand.
Yeah.
Right. Because then it makes me think of like, for our culture, right? The Hispanic culture has a lot of pride.
Yeah.
And James says that pride will kill relationships.
Oh yeah.
So how do you feel about pride and communication? Like, I guess constructive criticism wise, or being able to take it or being able to understand the other's side of what they're saying.
Well, I think first of all, you need Christ. You need Christ in the center of your lives, and you need love because that's what will produce patience. And I think the ability to hear someone and also to meet them where they're at. So I think that for spouses who are having communication errors or communication issues, you really have to be patient with each other. You have to be patient. You have to, and you really have to have hard conversations. Like,
ooh, there you go.
I don't know how many times we've had hours of conversations because we had to learn to hear and understand each other.
Yeah.
And something that we completely did not at first. And I think there's several times I think when we thought we understood and we still were assuming, like, your mom said, because it's easy to assume that you think what the other person is thinking or the way they feel. And that's a dangerous place to be in a relationship because you're going to always assume, I think, the worst in each other when you really need each other for, that listening ear or, to feel seen or heard or understood. That can be so damaging to a relationship if you're constantly hearing the same things over again that are actually demeaning to you or make you feel, like you said, like the other person is just carrying pride.
Yeah.
And then you can become prideful because then you feel guarded and you're like,
ooh,
man, I don't even want to be vulnerable with you right now because you're being a jerk. You know what I mean? Or you don't understand how I feel, or you know what I mean? There's just been several times that we've had, and there's been several times I think where I thought you meant something that you didn't really mean.
Yeah.
And you didn't really feel.
Yeah.
And because I was convinced by the way that you maybe said it or did it, that I was like, oh, you're being, this way or you're being that way. And you're like, no, I'm really not.
Yeah.
And so there's been several times that we've had to, just talk and have the hard conversations and uncomfortable conversations and vulnerable conversations with each other about everything. Because if you, one thing I've learned in this relationship and being married is that if I harbor any sort of feelings against you, number one, the Holy Spirit convicts me. So God always convicts me. And that's something different in my relationship with you as your wife than I've ever experienced in any of my other relationships that I wasn't married to because I didn't care. Okay. So if I felt like I was right, then I was right. And it didn't matter what you thought. And it didn't matter what you were going to say because I'm right. But because I'm married to you and because we do try to have God at the center of our lives, even when I try to hold on to something or I try to tell myself like, well, I was right and he was wrong and I don't care. I like always, maybe not almost immediately get convicted, but within that day, I get convicted because I know that whatever is damaging to you is also going to be damaging to me because we are supposed to be one. Yeah. And so I think that a lot of times people can get, like I said, playing the tick for tack, thinking, well, I'm going to walk away with that, with my pride and because I'm right, but not necessarily actually fixing anything. And then that does more damage later when you try to come back to a conversation or maybe something that you guys were arguing about because you felt like you were right. Yeah. And validated. And just because you walk away right doesn't mean you like won. Because again, it's like you're not winning anything if you're at cahoots with your husband. Yeah. Or vice versa.
Now, as you say, walk away, like, let's talk about that because sometimes when people walk away, like they get all right, well, I'm just not going to respond.
Yeah. Like the silent treatment.
The silent treatment.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And that is a bad place to be.
Yes.
Because it's not going to help. First off, like during that time, if you're doing that, then you're thinking about how hurt you are and why you don't want to speak and why you just want to ignore. Mm-hmm. And so it's like, well, you got to manage that hurt because you can't hold on to it. Right. Because if you hold on to it, it's not going to make anything better.
No.
So there has to be communication. But even if you take a break, like, okay, you're frustrated. Like it's better to take a break and come back and finish it when you're calm.
Yes.
But just not to hold on to it.
No.
Because then you're going to put up walls.
Yeah. But that's almost more damaging. I would almost prefer you to yell at me than give me the silent treatment because I hate the silent treatment. I feel like it's so hard to navigate when the other person is not even willing to talk. And I think that's also, again, a place where, things might be really bad because how they say, like, if you're still arguing, then they still care, right? Like you still care, right? But if you're not saying anything, like, right, you better be careful.
Well, what's going on in the head?
Yeah.
Because, what's going on in your mind?
That's where, like I said, like in your mind, you might start thinking, well, I don't need him.
Yeah.
Or I don't need her. And I am better off by myself. And I don't even know why I got married. And this is never going to work. And, you kind of keep that to yourself and you hold on to it. And then it can snowball into something
bigger,
way worse. Yeah.
Yeah. So I feel that.
Yeah.
It's a very dangerous place.
Yeah. I think one of the biggest things I've struggled with because, as we've talked about, learned behavior and communication is learned, right? So if you don't come from a healthy, or I wouldn't even say healthy, right? Because like our parents did the best they could with what
I think
they
it's
knew.
Our culture too.
Right. Well, culture, but I don't think we can put it in a box like that because communication breakdowns can be for everyone. Like
that's true.
There's angry, there's abusive, there's silent treatment, there's, cussing you out. I mean, culturally, I would say Hispanics tend to yell a lot more. I would say maybe.
Well, they don't like to express their feelings.
What do you mean, like with pride?
Yeah. Like we don't often like to express our feelings or how we feel.
Okay. So I could,
you know what I'm saying?
I could feel you there. Yeah. Because I think it's just more of like I don't want to show signs of like weakness or vulnerability.
Yeah.
So yes, I could say, yeah. But I also think that that's like a learned behavior because if their parents, were showing them that, then that's what they learned.
Yeah.
And then they maybe tried to do the best they could, but because of the lack of like education in communication specifically, because I think people think you should just know how to communicate and no, like people don't know how to communicate, Yeah. I work in clinical behavioral health with kids and we teach them social skills.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I know for a fact is that these kids are not being taught social skills at home.
Absolutely not.
And they're not, because a lot of them will tell you like, all I do is get yelled at, or my parents don't talk to me, or I get told it's none of my business, or, you know, pretty much like they're dealt with in a way that their parents have learned how to communicate. So
yeah,
for me and you, I would say specifically, we had to learn how to communicate with each other, because we didn't necessarily see it like in the healthiest way growing up. And it's like, again, no shade to our parents, because they did the best they could.
Yeah.
But I don't think that I really started to know what it was like to be in a healthy relationship that had good communication until I started being around like healthy couples that I worked around. Like when I worked at the Ridge Project, you know, it's a Christian organization. That was the first time I saw couples work together and respect each other at the level of like, wow, I want to be like that.
Yeah.
Or I want to emulate that someday in my marriage.
Yeah.
But I didn't know how to fully yet.
Right.
Because it's like a learning curve if that's not something that was taught to you in your home.
Right.
And so I think that also can be a huge issue with people. And it's not even that they don't love each other, and it's not even that they don't care for each other. It's just that they don't fully know how to communicate.
Do you think so let's talk about this on someone leaving a relationship and getting like, maybe they haven't had a healthy relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And then like trying to go into another relationship. Do you think that would bring a communication process, like, or crisis in that new relationship? Or do you think it's like, no, it's a fresh start.
Well,
something new.
I don't think that it necessarily would cause crisis, or, you know, mean that eventually it's going to get to a place of crisis. I just think that first of all, if you don't know much about communication, you're going to quickly find out once you get into this new relationship. I guess if you're saying in the old relationship, if you've had like abusive patterns or tendencies in communication,
because let's face it, there's a lot.
Yes. 9 times out of 10, you're probably going to bring some of that into the new relationship. So especially if you've had some sort of unresolved trauma or not healed trauma, because I do think that hurting people hurt other people.
Yeah.
And I don't necessarily think that that's something they try to do. I think it's just something that happens because it's kind of like an open wound that's still kind of bleeding.
Yeah.
And if you don't heal, you know, you're going to do kind of the same thing that you did in the last relationship in the new one. And so I think, man, it may not cause crisis, but it could cause like, you know, just communication barriers, you know, to the point that now, you know, you don't have the best relationship. Or I think that's also like what I meant earlier when I said that people say, well, they changed.
Yeah.
You know, well, I mean, first of all, you're not really going to know someone until you've probably been with them for like 2+ years.
Right.
You know, you have to really get to know someone. I think that's a big error that people make, is they rush into relationships. And I don't, you know, like as a believer, I could understand why in certain instances, because you want to honor the Lord when it comes to like purity or doing things God's way. But at the same time, you should definitely not just be getting married because you want to have sex.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You should be coming into a union because you believe it's what will make you and them a better person.
Yeah.
And something that God can grow and use for, you know, the expansion of his kingdom.
Right.
I've actually met people that have gotten divorced and ended up getting, you know, broke up because they pretty much outright told me like they got married because they wanted to have sex.
Yeah. So then it's like, you know, you're building a relationship off lust.
Yes.
And there's no love.
No. And you know, it's like falling in love is super easy to do. It's very, very easy to do. But growing And building like a foundation of trust, that takes time.
Yeah.
And it takes intentionality, and it takes sacrifice and selflessness. And, I know we've said it before that, and Pastor Kyle said it before, if you want to see how selfish you are, get married. And if you want to see how really selfish you are, have kids, because you're going to have to die to yourself in a lot of ways.
Can't have nothing with you kids.
To be in a healthy relationship. Like, it's just true. Like, but also that's not a bad thing, because it will change you in a way that you probably didn't even think was possible for yourself.
Absolutely.
And so there's a lot of hard moments, but there's also a lot of beautiful moments that you can kind of reflect on and circle back to be like, man, this was worth it, because I like the person I am today better than I did, 10 years ago.
Yeah.
So,
all right. So let's talk about a really hard thing now.
Okay.
Like the difference we have between hearing and listening when in a marriage or a relationship with finances. Right. And I'm
like,
just
in what? Like,
because all right, so if one has more structure and discipline in the financial area than the other.
Yeah.
Right. And the other's just like, well, I'm used to you're coming in from being single and you're like, all right, I know how I spend my money and that's just it.
Yeah.
Right. But now you're trying to make a relationship and learn how to communicate on financial systems. And one is better. We'll say one's better in discipline than the other.
Yeah.
Right. And so the one's like, all right, well, let's talk about our finances. Let's put this back. Let's do this. Let's do that. And the other one's like, well, I can't right now because I'm not ready for that. I'm not up to that system. Okay. Like, how much of a problem do you think that would cause in communication, trying not to be on the same page in financial wise now?
I think it's going to cause a lot of disruptions in your relationships piece.
And even more, just like you're in a habit, right? So now you're coming into a relationship and you're like, well, it's just what I do.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
How do we communicate on that?
You have to be understanding to one another. I think you have to be also willing to see the other's perspective. So that takes humility.
Ooh, there's a good word.
And for you to understand that you may not, maybe what's right for you is not what's right for us, and how that has to change because the dynamic of the relationship has changed. Mm-hmm. So what you were used to doing is probably not what you ought to be doing in this new relationship, because it can cause issues later. I do think, though, that's something that should be talked about prior to getting in some sort of commitment with someone, engaging someone, getting married to somebody, because those are conversations that you are going to have eventually. So you should start talking about that before you, I think, get too serious, so that you can understand where you're going to be at financially, so that you have an expectation and you're not just completely blindsided by, what you're going to walk into if they're set in their ways and, you know what I mean? They don't want to budge.
Right. Now, let's switch that a little bit. Like now, all right, how do you correct someone in communication when you were right and they were wrong?
With humility.
Yeah.
With love. Trying to stay away from being haughty or see, I told you.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times in those types of relationships, eventually the other person is going to see that.
Yeah.
If their spouse or their partner was telling them, hey, we need to do it this way, because this could happen. And then the other partner is seeing the consequences of that, habit, or, the habitual way they use their money. And then they get into some sort of tizzy. Then it's the partner, the husband or the wife, they shouldn't be like, see, I told you, I told you so.
Yeah.
Because that can also be degrading. and demeaning, as opposed to, you know, I care about our finances, and I care about you, and I want, you know, to be secure, and I want you to feel secure. And, you know, I think this is important for us to moving forward, trying to do maybe what I suggested in the beginning, because I think it's a lot to do with just your approach and how you say it, because I may not hear it if you're being aggressive, or you're being passive aggressive, or you're being cynical, or you're being, you know, a jerk or something. It's like, you know, sometimes you may just tune somebody out simply because you don't like the way they say it.
Yeah.
You know, and that's not going to be helpful for either of you.
Right.
You know, especially if you're putting your finances together.
Yeah.
But again, I think that those are conversations you should have before. I think you should definitely get into the nitty-gritty of how things are going to look and go when you really start getting into your relationship together.
Yeah. I think another big thing is like the power of our tongue in communication.
Yeah.
Like, you know, the Bible, there's a time in the Bible where Jesus is hungry,
Mm-hmm.
and he walks out and he sees this fig tree, and the disciples are like behind him, following him. And he walks up to this fig tree,
Mm-hmm.
and he's hungry. So he goes to pull a fig off it, and there's no figs. It's not producing any fruit, even though it looks like it's producing fruit.
Yeah.
And he looks at it, and he's like, he speaks to it, and he's like, you know, you'll never produce fruit again.
Yeah.
And it withers away.
Mm-hmm.
And the disciples are like at awe because of this, because it like instantly happened. But then he looks at him and he tells him, like, you can do the same thing too.
Yeah.
So it's like the power of our tongue that it holds within our relationship. Even, you know, if we begin to curse our relationship, or curse our finances, or curse the problem that we're in,
It's going to make it worse.
it's going to make it worse.
Yeah.
And I feel like we've known that we haven't put the Bible's knowledge behind it in that way, but they have known it. People have known it because they're always like, oh, well, you know, just be careful how you speak. Like,
yeah. Like never say never.
never
like,
say never.
You know.
You know what I'm saying? Because we've seen it. We've proved it to ourselves so many times.
Mm-hmm.
You know, even you and I have before.
Yeah.
Speaking in a situation, and then it ended up happening. We're like, bro, we were just saying that in a joking manner.
Yeah.
Like, what in the world? So I think it's like very important to, like, when we get upset
Mm-hmm.
in a situation where communication's not right, like we do it all the time, you and I specifically, is like, we'll have to take a break from something,
Mm-hmm.
but we always come back to it.
Yeah.
But it's like, I've noticed that now, like, it's better to do that,
Yeah.
because sometimes, like, as humans, it's hard to hold our tongues.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And it's easy to begin to curse the situation, and it's easy to begin to put a negative atmosphere when you're already in a hurt spot.
Yeah.
You know,
You shouldn't be, the Bible tells us not to be like reacting off of anger. Like that's foolish.
yeah,
You know, that's a huge thing for people, because you're going to eventually, you know, curse yourself and your relationship a lot more if you keep doing that. And I think, you know, even if you know that, right? Like, I'm a believer. I know the word. I was raised, you know, hearing the word, knowing the word. But because I am human, and because I think my personality type and just all the, you know, traumas and things that I've been through, I think it's easy to react or want to react, you know, angrily.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you know, I've had to really learn how to like tame my tongue with, you know, with the kids, because it ultimately, like I said, it hurts the both of us.
Yeah.
It hurts the kids. It hurts, you know, everyone that you love, if you're not taming your tongue, because your tongue speaks life or death.
Yeah.
And, you know, the Bible says that your words will not return to you void, meaning what you say is going to manifest, and you need to be careful. And it's like, there's so many times that I could think about right now that I've done that and you've done that. You know what I mean? I don't think that.
Babe's the table like, get her, don't play that.
I think we both have done that to each other. We are not perfect, but that's the beauty of it, is that the only perfect one is Jesus. And that's why we need him, because we've had to cry out to the Lord. We've had to, and we're huge on apologizing in this house. Okay. Yeah. So like, if you're wrong, apologize.
Here's a quick break from our sponsors, R&R Handyman Service. From small repairs to home improvements, no job is too small. If you need reliable, honest work done right the first time, call R&R Handyman Service at 419-770-0242. That's 419-770-0242. R&R Handyman Service, getting it done right for you.
Apologize, because that's humility, break down your pride, because man, like, you are not always right, first of all. And, you want to be someone that your family wants to be around, or that your husband wants to be around. Like, you can't complain if like you're always, being negative, or you're cursing everything and everyone and wondering why nobody likes you.
Yeah.
Or absolutely. Nobody wants to be around you.
Yeah.
Because that,
can't be a negative Nancy all the time.
No, but both sides can do that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's not just women. You know what I mean? I know the natural, inclination of someone is to be like, oh, women do that, or wives do that because they nag or whatever. But it's like, no, both can do that.
Oh, absolutely.
You can get into a negative space in your mind based upon circumstance, and that's what I meant by saying, like, I know the word, I was raised in it, but I also am human. So when things happen that you maybe never planned to happen, or you've never been through before, that can rock you. Like, it can just rock you to like your whole foundation. That's why, your foundation has to be strong, because you're going to be like punched in the stomach by life. And that's why you need a strong partner who's gonna, like, in times you're gonna need to lean on them, and for them to remind you that you have to rely on the Lord, or you have to chill out, or remember that you're blessed, and that they love you, or God loves you, or your family loves you. Because if not, you can easily, and trust me, I've done it myself. Like, I've been a victim. Okay. Several times I've been a victim, but I've had to get out of that. And I think if you're not careful, both sides can get into this victim mentality of like, well, you don't understand how I feel. And you don't understand what's going on with me. But really, like, no, like we can understand each other. We just have to listen to each other. We have to be patient with each other. We have to understand each other. And like I said, that takes intentionality,
It does. And I think, out of it, looking at my side, and I've been saying this a lot, is like learning how not to be double-minded.
Yeah.
Because then I want to think like two different ways.
Yes.
And then I start to play this, well, all right, what am I feeling?
Yeah.
And James is like, look, bro, I told you in James 2 that if like you're double-minded, like you're going to be unstable in all your ways.
Yeah.
And you're going to be directed like the wind and the waves. And one day you're going to be trusting, the other next day you're going to be fear, and you're going to be here and there, and you're all over the place. And you're going through these situations in life, and you're like, oh, well, no, I trust God. But then you're like cursing it, all this effing bank account. And I every time I look at it, and it's like, no, you just told God that bless your finances, and now you're cursing and cussing at your bank account.
I think you have had to, I think you've reminded me both ways.
Yeah.
I think you've gotten on my ever loving nerves in certain ways that you tell me stuff about that. But then I think that there's times where, I hear you enough to recognize that what I'm doing, I need to stop.
Yeah.
And I think that I've done that with you and other things as well. And I think that's, why it's important to have good communication, so that
it is,
you can receive what the other one is saying and not assume what the other one is saying.
As a guy, though, going back, like All right. Most guys are pretty rough around the edges, right? So when it comes to us, especially me, when we first got together, like coming out of the military, man, well, not even then, but just being of a person that served in the military in a line unit, it was like my mouth was like awful rough, you know? So I think for someone like that's not used to that either, especially for guys, you know, learning how to communicate is very important, because the way I perceive things is way different than what you perceive it. And the way I say things, like the way I say things is direct, simple, and stupid. You know, and you're like, I don't understand what you're saying.
Right.
You know, and you're like, when you speak, it's like a little bit different. And we're saying things two different ways. But my whole point in it all is like learning how to be soft, like answer with a soft response as a man. Because even like, it's easy for us to, like you said, if someone plays tick for tack, especially as a guy and especially as an infantry soldier and especially in the military, like we just know how to be rough. It's easy for us to come back with a really smart aleck remark. And I know that like annoys you a lot of the times, like when I'm giving you a smart aleck remark.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
I think
so
you've
I have
gotten
to
a
like,
lot
but
better.
but I had to kind of get that under control, because I felt like I would do that smart aleck remark at the beginning a lot, because and you were being serious and I'm like, I have dark humor, and I'm just like, okay, that sounds like not the way I perceive it. So
yeah.
I'll throw a smart aleck remark out there.
Yeah. But I also think that that's because we were not communicating about how we felt to each other right away either. I think we both kind of were assuming that, you know, well, he just doesn't really care. I'm going to show this because he doesn't really care, and I'm going to do it this way because, you know what I mean? Like it wasn't really vulnerable, I think, until we got married and then moved in the house together, like where we really were like, actually, when you say this and you say it the way you're saying it, I feel this way. And I think that's important too, is not your response is not the result of someone else's actions. Your response is your own response. It is your choice. And so I think that learning to take responsibility and accountability for the way we chose to respond to each other or react to each other when we were upset has helped us come a long way too. So, you know, even with the girls, like when they say to each other, you know, I called her a brat because she was being mean to me.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, no, you called her a brat because you chose to. Not because she made you, you know? So it's like, I think
how to find that resolve in your feelings instead of just letting your emotions fly.
Right. Because you're in control of your emotions and you're in control of your responses. You know, impulsivities are a little bit different. It's a reactionary, it's like if somebody hits you, it's like your reaction is you want to hit them back. Yeah. But in a relationship, if you're saying something to cut me, or to hurt me, I can choose to also hold my tongue to be able to then let you hear yourself for what you just said to me versus me coming back at you and saying something that's going to be completely counterproductive to us having a peaceful relationship or a peaceful conversation to fix it. Yeah. And I think that that's a problem too, is like you want to match somebody's reaction. You want to play tick for tack. Like you want to be the person with the last word. Yeah. Me and you have had to have lots of conversations about that because, like I think when you would tell me I need a moment, I would take that as like the silent treatment. And I'm like, you're not going to walk away from me. Like, and I'm going to have the last word. But really that was just you being like, hey, I need to take a moment because I want to be respectful to you. Yeah. And I want to come back to this conversation when we're calm. And so it took a minute, I think. And it's not like, again, we're not perfect. We still have issues at times, but we've gotten a lot better about letting each other take that minute
Yeah.
and then coming back. And if we say something, you know, out of anger, you correct it quickly. You know, you don't let it percolate. You know, you don't let those things like linger, you know, because that's ugly.
Absolutely. And you always guard your tongue, man, because you don't want to.
For sure.
You'll end up 5 minutes later, you're going to go walk away and feel horrible that you said whatever you said and then come back. And then now you got to eat like your garbage.
Crow. Yeah. Because you got to apologize.
You got to apologize.
And I think too, like with kids, like if you got kids, like be careful because your kids are watching too. And that's also giving them permission to either treat others like that or allow themselves to be treated that way too. And I think that's kind of what we were talking about earlier with like learned behavior. And so,
and especially as fathers, you know, like, you know, as a father, the one thing I can say is like, you know, how do you want your daughter spoke to? You know, and the one thing I've always said is like, if I love my wife, there's no reason why I should have to talk to her that way, like in a disrespectful way. Like if I truly love my wife, why should I ever have to want to disrespect her?
And I think it's okay. Like we were talking about earlier, it's okay. Like if you're right, okay. Like if like you're right in a situation, right? But like you said, like if you're rubbing that in my face or you're, you know, see, I told you, you don't listen. You never listen. You know, that's counterproductive.
Yeah.
To actually, you know, having me want to then respect you.
Right.
Because I made a mistake, but now you're making it worse.
Yeah.
And so I think like, you know, when we were talking to your mom earlier, she said like, if, you know, when people are married longer, that they then assume that about each other, like they just know how the other person's going to respond. And that's where I think like you're never too old or too far gone to like understand each other if you both have the desire to do so.
Yeah, it just takes a little more time.
It just takes more time. And I think just patience with each other and also, you know, prayer, because that's the one thing that we do a lot, you and I, is we pray together.
Yeah.
And praying together actually softens each other. You know, it softens each other. It softens just the way we communicate. And I think, like I said, like it makes you feel a little bit more responsible for your own actions or like your own responses to your spouse.
Yeah.
You know, or your children or whoever you're in a relationship with, you know. You should definitely be self-reflecting if you're having an issue, because one of the things I think that we're learning through this marriage too is, like you said in the beginning, is how much you get offended is also a reflection of what's going on in you.
Yeah.
Because if something strikes a nerve with you and you feel like a sting from the other person, and maybe they don't do it right, but there's probably some truth to what they're saying. Otherwise, there wouldn't even be the disagreement in the first place.
Yeah.
And so I think that that's important, is self-reflection and to assess yourself.
Very important.
You know, could I have said that better? Could I have done that better? You know, it makes me think of just like some of the conversations that we've had about the kids, like you telling me something and I'm like, no, I think it's this way. And then coming to see like, man, you know, you were right. But in the way that you told me, you weren't like, see, I told you, Natalie, like you should have listened to me from the beginning. I'm never going to listen to you again. You know what I mean? Like it's just
I just never try to say anything.
Yeah.
Because I know you know.
Well, because I know. You know what I mean?
So it's like I don't have to say anything because like I can see that you see it.
Yes.
So there's no point. Like I know that you've hit that mark of like, okay, like there's a reflection and she understands. Like there's knowledge behind the wisdom now.
Yeah. But I think on the other foot, I've seen that with you too, because I've had to correct you and just things with, you know, talking to me, them, like, and, you know, you're not, I mean, sometimes you don't like it for sure. Like you don't always like what your spouse is going to say, but you're still, you have the ability to receive. So I think that's good too.
Yeah.
You know.
And you know, it doesn't always make me happy when I'm wrong, you know.
Like,
and of course, you're like,
who wants
you don't like to say, you don't like that I said that, and I'm like,
No.
It's okay. Like I still got to hear it.
Yeah.
Like, I think being able to take constructive because there's a difference between opinions and constructive criticism.
Yeah.
And like, you're giving me constructive criticism.
Yes.
Your spouse, it should always be constructive criticism. It should never be an opinion.
No.
And so, as men, it does suck, right? To be the leaders of the home, to be wrong, but we're not perfect. Just like you said, like there's always times we can need correction, or we do just need some extra life spoken into us.
Yeah.
Or we were hearing, but we weren't listening.
Yes.
And as much as that sucks to be like, man, I heard you, but I didn't really listen to you.
Mm-hmm.
It's, I feel like you grow 10 times the amount when you're able to be like, you know what, admit that.
Yeah.
And be accountable.
Yeah.
Because growth is not going to come when you're comfortable.
No,
And
not at all.
You're not going to drift into purpose. You're going to drift into comfort most of the time. So,
well, and humility is hard because it's like the complete opposite of pride. When you have to be humble.
But it allows unity to set in.
It does, but it also allows you to grow. And see, that's also, I think, what starts to create easier conversations, because now I feel more comfortable coming to you.
Yeah.
Because we already had that hard conversation. So now I'm going to bring this to you when I feel like, it's something you need to hear. And there's been several times where I've like thought about it and I'm like, am I going to say something, or, should I say something right now, or should I wait? And there's times where I'll wait on when I should say something. I think there's wisdom in that too. Like, not every conversation needs to be had right away.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Something might be better when you're at the end of the day and you're about to go to bed versus during the day. You know what I mean? Or before they got to go to work, or, you know what I mean? So it's like using wisdom on when to do that as well too, so that they're the most receptive. But it's caused a lot of growth, I think, for the both of us. And then the ability to be more comfortable to talk to each other, you know, and to hear each other, to understand each other.
I feel that.
But and I think your point earlier when you said about how you weren't I was getting frustrated with you being present, or hearing something but not really hearing me to remember what I said.
Yeah.
I think is also something that has to have intentionality, because you can hear someone and literally not remember what they said.
Yeah.
An hour later, and that can cause just insecurity, because then you're like, you don't really care about what I said to you then if you don't even remember it. And so, but it's also okay to repeat yourself, if somebody didn't quite hear you or understand you. I think that's, again, why it's important to have, conversations at the end of the night with your husband anyways. You should be reflecting over the day with each other. I think that's a good thing that you and I do every night, is just talking about our day. And you asking how my heart is, or, how my day was, or, whatever the case is.
I think an important thing that that we really had to do was, like I said, that fulcrum point. And, as a man in the house, as a leader, it's I think that is our job to be the fulcrum point.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But it's important to know, to be intentional.
Yeah.
Right. Be intentional about being that fulcrum, because it's easy. God has set this on my heart to be one of my passions. And, we've spent 5 hours in here before.
Yeah.
Recording. And then it's easy just to not want to adjust that fulcrum.
Well, yeah.
But making sure that I'm intentional about hearing you, to know, okay, now, I'm not just going to tell you I'm going to do it. I have to be intentional about doing it. And I think that's also another important part of communication is like, if you say you're going to do it,
do
it. Like, just don't say it, because it's going to make the communication worse. Cause now you're like, well, you're selling me a dream.
Yep.
You know, like, do you really care?
Yeah.
And
now I can't trust you.
The identity part again, right? Now that identity, like if that person has that issue of like, okay, they felt rejection before, they felt abandoned before. Like that's part of the root of their identity. So now they're like, okay, well, you're making me feel rejected.
Yeah. And
you're
then
making
you
me
get
feel
triggered
abandoned.
all over again to feel like you did from something that may not even have anything to do with your husband or your wife, but because of how they said something to you or their lack thereof, they now triggered you into a place of
an argument, possibly.
Yeah, or you're just like everyone else in my life.
Oh,
you know, you're no different, because now you're doing the same thing that they did to hurt me then.
Yeah.
You know, so, I don't think I don't think you did it intentionally with not balancing out the time and being present. I think it's just like your purpose can, you can't let your purpose like completely outweigh everything, because your first like ministry is your home. Yeah. It's your wife. It's your kids, and that can be really hard to balance out when you're doing something you love, because you also love what you're doing.
Right.
But I think that's the importance of intentionality. That's the importance of having these hard conversations and, a valuable time spent, as well as learning each other's love language.
There you go.
Because what you deem as like feeling loved, I don't.
Yeah.
And that's important too, is learning each other that way.
Yeah.
Because, for me, it's like, I need, words of affirmation, or I need,
just love done, just a hug.
Love done. Yeah. Like a hug. And, I know you value time spent, like very much. Your time spent, I think like, gifts also, like I think acts of service, things like that for you. But, everyone is different. So I think, and something as simple as like learning each other's likes and dislikes and wants, that helps communication too, because then you felt like you're being cared for, Yeah.
Well, I think there's other things to do, especially like, as we get older, like, the kids get older, they move out, and then it's just you two.
Yeah.
Right. So then it's like, all right, well, if you don't put that time in to relearn, because that person's changed.
Yeah.
They've gone their whole life now, raised kids, and then moved them out. And then now, okay, like I'm not that same person I was as when I was raising kids. Like I'm a whole different person.
Right.
And so I think it's very important for older couples or older married couples that's been married for some time to put new work in they haven't done for a while. Like, let me make sure I take you out on a date on Friday night, or something I do every so often. I haven't done it in a few months, but I always bring flowers home for you. Like just a small act, like, hey, remind you, hey, here's some flowers. Like trying them things, because you have to keep building. You have to keep something in there. And I do like, that's very important. Like a love language, like that. I think that has a lot to do with our communication. I'm going to want to communicate with you more if you know who I am, what I like personally. Because if I don't feel like, well, I'm giving, but do you care about what I like?
Yeah.
I
think women can get into that too really badly on accident, is they will expect, but it's like, what are you actually giving to your partner too? Like your husband, like, are you serving him? Are you caring about his needs? Are you asking him how his day was? Like, before you're wanting something in return, because I think that also can fuel his like remembrance also, to be like, oh, I need to like.
So what I'm hearing is like the same grace that you give is the same grace that the same grace that heals me is the same grace that heals you.
Yeah. And you're going to be measured by what you give.
Yeah.
You too will receive. So I think that's also why it's important to honor each other and care for each other and not just, your own wants and needs, because that's selfish. That's not in a marriage. That's not one, that's just all about self. And that doesn't work very well.
It doesn't. Like the big thing I've noticed that changed is, so the baby boomers, man, I still see some of them around. I go to the coffee shop, and I remember probably about a month ago, we were going into cabin. We had a meeting there, and he's an older fella, and he's like courting his wife out, and walks her all the way up to the door and opens the door.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, just them little acts that them guys still do in being a gentleman, I think it goes a long way.
Yeah.
And it doing them things it allows you to be more open to communication.
Yeah.
Because you're just softer.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I think it's them things are neat. Like we don't see them as much, but we need to.
Yeah, we do.
And I know, it's hard. Everybody works a lot, but the importance of showing your home, how to communicate, how to love, how to be in a healthy relationship. Like you don't even have to speak really. That's the sad part. You just have to show them.
I think too, like what I said earlier about being a victim, like if you're so fixated on yourself and just yourself and like what you're missing, like you can easily become a victim that way. And you will miss like the beauty in serving others and your partner, because that's what will take the focus off of you. Is like if you actually remember that your life's, your life has a purpose too, to serve and honor and love people. And once you give, that's when you'll receive. And so I think like we have to get into the habit of first giving to then receive.
Yeah.
Versus it being backwards, because we live in such a fast-paced dog eat dog, like, it's all about me type world right now.
Yeah.
Instant gratification that, you have to actually put in the work to, grow something beautiful.
Yeah.
So
yeah, absolutely. And, even for me, knowing that like, so one thing men say a lot that we can probably change up, right? And we talked about this last week. And I was like, well, you're like, you got to quit saying that because it sounds so rude.
What?
And I'm asking the girls, I'm like, dude, are you guys on your period?
Oh gosh.
All right. And so women, let me be honest, like what I meant by that. All right. What men mean by that. Because it sounds really like rude. And I get it because we talked about it. But as a man thinks, I'm like, in my head, I'm like, well, do I need to give grace right now?
Right.
Like,
that's what you meant.
That's what I meant. Like, I'm asking like, well, should I have some grace right now? Like, are you not feeling good? And that probably wasn't the best way to ask that.
No.
But in my head as a man, I'm like, well, do I need to show extra grace right now because you're on your period? Like, and as a guy, we're like plain simple stupid. Let me just ask you a straightforward question.
Right.
But that's a big thing in like how it could make you upset or feel disrespected.
Yeah.
And really, I'm like, well, are you just mad in a bad mood or are you on your period? And I'm not meaning to be offensive.
Yeah.
I'm meaning to be like, hey, like, are you just mad or are you really having a bad day?
Right.
And I should have asked it that way.
Yeah.
And
then let me tell you.
Yes.
Versus being like, are you on your period? Because you're being a jerk. Because what women would hear would be like, you're being a B,
Yeah.
Because you're on your period.
Yeah.
And it's like, even though that's not what you meant, that's what I heard.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, wanted to snap at you because I'm like, stop saying that. Like, because girls don't want to hear that. First of all, we hate being on our periods as is. No one likes to be on their period. If you say you do, you're a liar. And it's awful. So it's like, you don't want to hear your husband say that or another man be like, oh, you're on your period. That's why you're being that's why you're being a brat. It's like, no, like after talking about it, I understood what you meant after.
Yeah.
But when you first said it, it's like, it's almost like a ew, shut up. You know, like that doesn't help the situation by
Right.
asking me that, especially if you have a house full of girls, because you know, you do. You're
do.
and you know, God bless you because you are in a house with 4 women, 4 girls, you know.
It gets rough.
You know, one's going to be a young adult, and you know, then me, and then the 2 teenagers. So I'm sure it's not easy, you know, and God, you know, I got to give it to you for that. But I think that's why it's important to learn how to communicate. You know, because something that you say could be easily offensive.
Yeah.
And so, but
and it
again,
starts up a whole issue, a whole fight
that could have been completely avoided because, you know, you chose to say something reactionary versus like stopping and thinking, you know, like, you know, usually when you can stop and think, if you have to stop and think, then it's probably something you shouldn't say.
And that's been really hard for me because I don't have a filter.
Yeah, but I think you've gotten a lot better. Like I said, like with having these talks, you know, because like I said, I didn't know how to communicate until I saw it exemplified for me. You know, and then was able to see, and there was a difference between learning how to communicate and applying communication to my life.
Yeah.
And that's where the challenge really came, was with me and you.
Yeah.
Because now we knew, like we had the tools, but now we had to like actually use the tools to learn how to communicate with each other. And that's something that we're still learning.
Yeah.
You know, we're still learning, and we're always going to learn.
Absolutely.
You know?
But I think it's good to keep a beginner's mindset.
Yes. Yeah. You've never arrived. You don't know everything. And it's good to have that, you know, sort of like, how do you say, apprentice type mentality that, you know, you're always going to be learning.
Yeah.
So,
all right, we're going to do something different. You're going to give one last thing to the women on communication, and I'll give one last thing to the men. So what's one last thing you can leave with women to better their communication?
Even though we are always right, I'm just kidding. Even though we always want to think we're right, there's always a better way to communicate your feelings without being abrasive and offensive and or disrespectful or naggy. Oh, and your tone. Like, watch your tone. As much as we think it's not a big deal to our husbands or our spouses or partners or whatever, it's a big deal. And I've had to learn that my tone matters. My tone actually can change the dynamic of a situation for the better or for the worse. So watch your tone, ladies.
That's
for
good.
sure.
That's good. And now for me, you scallywags. No, I'm just joking. One thing I can leave with the gentleman. I'm going to start off right here. First, if you don't believe in God, what I can say to that is that I do. And even if one day come to find out I'm wrong about believing in God, I lost nothing. I live blessed, peacefully, with a beautiful family, and we have respect in it. And saying that, men, always think about the grace that God gives us, because we mess up a lot. I've messed up a lot. And I'm not saying we have to be perfect, because even King David wasn't perfect. But I do always reflect on the amount of grace that God's had for me in my life, and know that if he continues to give me that grace, I need to show my wife that same grace.
Word.
And if you have daughters, and I do, and I wasn't always a good husband, but I know that I wouldn't want my girls to have the person who I was when I was younger. And if I want them to have a respectable and honorable husband, then I need to show what that's like, because that's what they're going to look for. And if you don't want your sons ending up in jail or prison, then you need to show them what a husband should look like. And remember that we're just not raising kids to be adults, man. We're raising them to be somebody's spouse. And it can't just take one of us. Because I can't show my daughters how to be a mom or a wife.
Or a woman.
So we need to keep our homes together. We need both parents there. They both matter, and the way you communicate matters. Not just for your marriage, but for your kids' sake. I think that's it.
Do better. And educate yourself, because you have it at your fingertips if you have a phone.
Yeah.
I mean, if you have YouTube, I mean, gosh, you could find anything on the internet. I know I said something about the Rids earlier, but Ron and Kathy Tirina, they have an awesome couples communication course.
The Hobsons,
yeah, they have
Wellspring Legacy Group.
Wellspring Legacy Group.
One of our affiliates.
Yeah.
Definitely go tap in with them.
There's lots of ways to educate yourself on communication. And, you know, Alex and I definitely, I mean, we're a work in progress. But
no one's perfect.
We work at it. You know, that's one thing that we do, is we work at it intentionally. And I think that's probably the best advice we could give anybody, is just
be intentional.
Be intentional. Educate yourself for sure. Yeah. So,
guys, thank you for tapping into this week's episode.
This was fun.
Daily Chop. It was very fun. If any one of these episodes has ever resonated with you, please hit that like button, subscribe, do us a favor, and go leave us a review on our Apple and Spotify platforms. You don't have to leave a 5-star review, just a simple review to help us get this message out to somebody else. God bless.
Love you guys.
It's a house divided, and I ain't talking about the rivalry. The numbers growing, people embracing reform theology. It's not a trend, just a product of consequence. Told to shepherd people, lead them to scripture, common sense. Look, it's pure buffoonery inside the church. Was made to be a haven for truth. Some sit down where liars lurk. No improvement, at times are worse. I'm pointing to the sky, observe a